XRP is finally getting its liftoff moment. Franklin Templeton and Grayscale Spot XRP ETFs went live today, and the numbers from day one are already shaking up the market. What does this really mean for XRP's price, supply, and the next few years? Let's break it all down in today's update. Welcome back to XRP Daily Brief. I'm your host, bringing you a clear, no-hype update on what's happening around XRP and its growing ecosystem. Nothing I say here is financial advice. Always do your own research and talk to a licensed professional before making any investment decisions. Let's start with the price. The market closed on Friday with XRP trading around $1.90. Over the weekend, I said I was personally interested in XRP under $2 because Monday looked like a key catalyst day with these spot ETFs finally launching. And that's exactly what we got. When the market opened on Monday, XRP was already around $2.10. And as I'm recording this, it's been trading just above $2.20. It's not a parabolic move yet, but it is a clear reaction to the new products going live. Now, what actually launched? We now have multiple spot XRP ETFs in the US market, including Bitwise, Grayscale, Franklin Templeton, and others, with more coming in the pipeline. Very early in the session, we started to see volume building. Bitwise came out strong, leading early trading. Franklin Templeton's XRP ETF, ticker XRPZ, started a bit slower, but then really began to catch up. Within the first hour, Franklin's ETF had already traded several $1 million worth of XRP exposure, while Grayscale and Bitwise also continued to pull in solid flows. Later in the day, Franklin and Bitwise were almost neck and neck in volume, separated only by a small margin. That kind of competition is exactly what you want to see. More marketing, more attention, and more reasons for institutions to at least look at XRP. Why is everyone watching Franklin Templeton so closely? Because this is not a small player. Franklin Templeton manages roughly $1.5 to $1.6 trillion in assets. That means a huge marketing budget, a massive distribution network, and access to over 13,000 advisory firms. And remember, that's not 13,000 individual advisors. That's 13,000 firms full of advisors. These are people who can pick up the phone and say to their clients, "We have a new product in the crypto space. If you're looking beyond Bitcoin and Ethereum, there is now a regulated way to get exposure to XRP." That's the real power of an ETF. It doesn't just list on an exchange and quietly sit there. It gives traditional finance a familiar wrapper they can present to conservative clients. Now let's talk about the big narrative everyone is excited about. The XRP supply shock. JP Morgan has put out estimates suggesting that new XRP and SOL ETFs could eventually attract around $14 billion in flows. Those are projections, not guarantees, but they show you how seriously big banks are starting to take this space. Let's play with some simplified numbers that have been circulating. Imagine Bitwise alone buying around 6 million XRP per day. Over a full month of trading days, that's roughly 180 million XRP. Now scale that idea. If over time you had 12 different funds across the US, Europe, and Asia, all actively accumulating XRP for their ETFs, a rough projection could look like 72 million XRP per day, 360 million XRP per week, and more than 1 billion XRP per month. If that kind of demand persisted over a full year, you'd be looking at numbers in the tens of billions of XRP. These are hypothetical models, and they usually assume a static price of around $2, because of course nobody knows if XRP will be at 2, 5, 10, or more a few months from now. But they illustrate the core issue. There is not enough XRP available at low prices if that kind of sustained ETF demand actually appears. The only way to clear that demand is higher prices. This brings us to an important question. Who is going to sell their XRP and at what price? Some holders bought at 30 cents or even lower. For them, $10 or $25 could be life-changing. At those levels, some people will simply say, My investment has multiplied enough. I'm going to pay off debt, buy a home, help my family, or support a cause I care about. That selling pressure is what refills the market and gives ETFs the liquidity they need. So you need to be honest with yourself. At what price would you start taking profits? At what price would you stop buying entirely? There is no universal right answer. It depends on your own risk tolerance, time horizon, and financial situation. But you should have a plan before the emotions kick in. Right now, there is still a lot of fear in the broader market. People are asking whether we are heading toward economic trouble in the United States, what the impact of carry trades unwinding in Japan or the UK will be, and what happens if risk assets get hit again. Historically, when people are extremely fearful, that often becomes a buying opportunity for long-term thinkers. When people are extremely greedy, that is often the time to be cautious and consider trimming positions. But again, that is general market psychology, not a personal recommendation. If you're unsure, talk with a professional advisor who understands your situation. I am not that. Now let's zoom out. Even with all this excitement, we are still early in crypto adoption. Tokenization of real-world assets has barely started. Stocks, bonds, derivatives, real estate, almost none of that value is on-chain yet. Settlement systems, including the stock market, still mostly run on old rails. If XRP ends up playing a real role in cross-border settlement, in providing liquidity for tokenized assets, or even in stock market settlement flows in some jurisdictions, then today's price action might look tiny compared to what comes later. Personally, my plan, and this is just my own view, is to ride the volatility, look for smart opportunities to add on deep pullbacks, and think in terms of the years between 2030 and 2035, not just the next few months. Some people in the community believe XRP could reach thousands of dollars by 2026. I don't share those specific timelines, and I think it's dangerous when everyone only talks about $1,000 or $10,000 targets with no nuance. Regulation, adoption, institutional comfort, and real utility all take time. Optimism is good, but discipline and realism are even better. If you want to follow these XRP ETFs yourself, there are trackers and analytics dashboards that aggregate volume and flows across issuers. You can look up XRP ETF trackers or tools that show daily inflows and outflows. Use whatever interface your brain finds easiest to read. Some dashboards are simple and clean, others are packed with data. The important thing is to understand the direction. Are flows growing, shrinking, or stabilizing? We are really just at the starting line. More XRP ETFs are expected to launch in the United States. Europe and Asia can roll out their own products if they see enough demand. Big institutions like JP Morgan are openly discussing multi-billion-dollar potential inflows into XRP-related products. The only way ETFs can keep absorbing large amounts of XRP over time is if the price adjusts upward to incentivize holders to sell. So could you imagine a world where XRP is at $10, $25, or higher? The question is not just what price it can reach, but what you will do at those levels. To recap, spot XRP ETFs from Franklin Templeton, Grayscale, Bitwise, and others have officially launched. Early volume is strong, with Franklin and Bitwise battling for the lead. Large institutions are modeling billions in potential inflows. If even a portion of those projections play out, ETF demand could create a real supply squeeze over time. Your job is to stay informed, stay calm, and have a clear plan for both taking profits and holding long-term, based on your own situation. I'll keep monitoring the flows, the macro backdrop, and all new data coming from issuers, banks, and regulators. This has been XRP Daily Brief. I'm your host, and I'll see you in the next episode with another clear breakdown of what's really happening in the XRP ecosystem.